We have the same thing on our block.
Good afternoon and welcome to this informational. It's Tuesday, June 26th. We are going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to start it off with open discussion. Is there anything for open discussion? I have one thing that I wanted to just bring up to the council. We had the Falls Park informational last week and had a lot of great conversations in regards to that. One of the things that was brought up is an additional study. I know I've spent some time looking at that and have my own opinion, but I wanted to throw it out there as far as if there's any other council opinions, as far as if we want to see this go somewhere else or if we're just simply looking at making some changes. Councilor Neitzer.
Thank you. I would like to say that there's really perhaps no other city asset that's received more review and study than Falls Park. I've had a lot of discussions since the tragedy with risk management. I sat down with the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance and the city attorneys I've talked to at length. Falls Park is studied at least annually in one form or another. We talk about hiring consultants and spending unnecessary money when we have people on staff who can do it. We have a great risk management department. I don't think people maybe are aware of the service that we get from the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance. We pay them quite a bit of money, and they have experts on staff. One of them is a guy named Doug Kirkus. He's a loss control consultant for Safety Benefits Incorporated, which is under contract with the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance. They provide loss control reviews for their members. Falls Park is reviewed annually, as I learned. Those reviews were completed every year from 2008 to the present. Those reviews are oral and they don't have a yearly report, so there's not a report per se. Risk management receives police reports and they review obviously all accidents and incidents at all of our venues, including Falls Park. After the 2013 tragedy, there was an ad hoc committee like there was just this year. They looked at everything. It included parks, fire, police, emergency management, the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance, SBI, the Safety Benefits Incorporated, and risk management. That led to the addition of the warning signs and also the anchor points. And there was discussion about a lot of the things we heard about last week that were also rejected again for various reasons. In 2016, there was there's that miscommunication about whether there was an audit or not. It wasn't an audit, but it did include a week-long loss control training exercise. That included Falls Park. It wasn't a formal audit, but they did have Mary Beth O'Connell, who has 32 years of loss control and safety consulting experience, and other people on site, and the executive director of the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance, who has 18 years as the state's risk manager in her previous life. And the state and the city share peer-to-peer experience. There's an internal Falls Park site evaluation 2010 and 2015. Loss control attends conferences, or this Falls Park is a topic of conversation all the time. We have the other analysis that was this year. So it's obvious to me that Falls Park has been analyzed over and over and over and exhaustively. So while we could hire a consultant, I would say that we already do pay a consultant. We've had it looked at numerous times, and I'm confident that we have very good recommendations, and I would feel comfortable moving forward. So sorry for the lengthy summary, but that would be my feeling.
No, thank you. I appreciate your thorough research always. Clearly you had done a little more than I did, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. Is there any other thoughts on that anyone? I'm sorry, Councilor Staley.
Well, yes, because actually I did, Councilor Starr and I had asked for information and things were not coming out. We were told there was something written, and then it turns out there wasn't something written. And in April, we had a resolution asking for the last 10 years of reports, and my colleagues on the council were very, very adamant that that was not needing to happen, and that we were scolded for even bringing this up that way. So I guess I think it would be good to have something in writing. I mean, an oral report, it really doesn't cut it for me. And we were told there was an audit, and it turns out there wasn't an audit. And where I am so grateful that we're talking about having this action taken down by the foam. That is, I think it's fabulous. But I was under the assumption last week that we were given this, that our mayor actually was suggesting that we do a third-party safety survey of the whole area they said about $15,000. I thought that's what I was hearing. So I was saying if we're going to do that, I think it would, and I know Councilor Starr agreed with that it would make more sense to do the comprehensive study, have an independent party come in, look at this, say there's some other things that we could do, and have it in writing. I just wanted something I could hang on to, and I know the media did too. We wanted something concrete to look at. So that I was just taking from what the mayor said, what his office said, that we should have this study done and then spend the $300-some thousand for the platform. And I am happy we're doing the platform. I think that needs to be done. But I would at some point like to have a study as well, on paper. Thank you.
Anyone else want to chime in? I'll just add that what I will do is follow up with the attorneys and see if maybe they can provide maybe more of a formal write-up versus the oral reports that we've received. I do agree that this particular area has probably been given more attention than, and rightfully so, than many other areas. And so it's very possible that we're able to get something in writing from them, and we'll kind of go from there. Councilor Kiley?
Well, I would just add that I believe what was brought forward last week was a set of recommendations that the council had the opportunity to review. And ultimately, it's going to be the council, this council, that will make the final decision as to what we go forward with. Mm-hmm. And as I stated last week, I do like the idea of a viewing platform down on the lower level because it'll direct individuals away from the danger area. I also, and I'm in the safety business, and I like to think the things that we do at the South Dakota Safety Council are very well thought out and researched and evaluated, but I also know that from time to time it's good to have another set of eyes on the projects to make sure that we're doing what, or just to ensure that we're not missing something. So I would also support that as well too, as well as take a look at some of the other recommendations that were on the list too.
Sounds good. We'll continue the conversation. We will move on to our first presentation. Mr. Mayor, if you would like to join us. Our presentation today is the 2019-2023 Capital Program presentation that will be given by Mayor Paul Tanakin.
All right, thank you, Councilor Erickson. Good afternoon, councilors and members of the public. I come before you today to present the 2019 to 2023 Capital Program proposal. This is our budget as a city, and today we will review some highlights of the capital program over the next 5 years, so you are aware of the priorities of my administration. Again, the reason I stand here facing you all is that this is not just a budget for the city and for the council, but this is for you as citizens, and this is collectively, this is our budget. Now, the elephant in the room today is that it's my 43rd day as your mayor. The budget proposal in front of you is a result of hard work, good stewardship, and smart planning over the past several months and years by the various departments and past councils. I want to take a moment to thank the city employees who helped prepare the capital program, especially those in the finance department who I've been spending a lot of time with in those first 43 days. This proposal has been thoroughly vetted by the departments, by myself, and I can assure you I've reviewed the entirety of the proposed budget and have made adjustments based on what I believe to be wise financial investments for the future of our city. So before we dive into the capital program, I want to take a few minutes for an overview of the city's finances. And as I prepared to enter the mayor's office over the past year, I heard a wide spectrum of opinions on the city's financial health, and especially on our ability to borrow. I would hear comments like, we spent too much money, we've maxed out our credit card, and I'd hear people say, the city's very stable, keep it moving, and I'd hear people say, spend more, I don't mind taxes. And actually only heard one guy say that, but he did really say that. But it's important for the people of Sioux Falls to know that the financial health of our city is very stable and it is very sustainable. Thanks to past administration and councils, our community has a solid foundation to build our future upon. So we can't avoid the obvious. There are outside influences affecting this budget that I'm going to show you today. Sioux Falls is heavily dependent on sales tax revenue to provide quality services and sustain and grow our infrastructure. And we'll dive into these numbers in a moment, but all of us know slow sales tax growth has declined over the past 2 decades. And there's no quantitative explanation for this, although I think we all have our own ideas and theories on that. When agriculture is thriving in the region, so is Sioux Falls revenue. Declines in commodities and recent threats of trade wars that could negatively impact ag exports are troubling to an already sluggish sales tax base in our state. Online shopping has also put a dent in sales tax growth. The convenience, product options, consumer experiences are attractive to shoppers, but it has a negative impact on our city's ability to maintain services and infrastructure. On the bright side, I was very pleased with the Supreme Court's opinion in the South Dakota versus Wayfair case last week. Beginning soon, many retailers will begin remitting sales tax to the state and municipalities. Realistically, this may not return Sioux Falls sales tax growth to the rate it was in the 90s. However, I'm optimistic it will bring in additional dollars that are greatly needed for our growing community and its growing needs. Now again, keep in mind all of the dollars we have lost to online sales aren't coming back. The Wayfair decision benefits our neighboring communities like Brandon, T, and Salem because the sales tax we once collected from those consumers at a brick and mortar shop in Sioux Falls and shifted online now go to those respective communities. But when South Dakota wins, Sioux Falls wins, and vice versa. Last year was the slowest growth in sales tax since the recession. Our peak in the past 20 years was 1997 at 9.5% annual growth, and last year it was at 1.9%. What you're looking at here is the rolling 10-year average. And so our rolling 10-year average of long-term revenue growth has a downward trend. This is the opposite trend we want to see as our population ticks upward and demands of running a nearly 200,000 population city continue to increase. On a bright side, so far 2018 is trending upwards. We've seen a great month in April, for example. This improvement allows us to be more bullish on the budget proposal that this city's financed and more bullish than we expected. We should be optimistic yet realistic with this budget. Although the numbers for 2018, as you can see in front of you, look good, and we expect revenue from online retailers at some point, we must be cautious given the ag economy is not yet trending upward as much as we'd like it to. Based on trends, the capital proposal today is based on an expected 3% sales tax growth rate. Our current debt capacity is manageable and sustainable. This chart shows current debt compared to expected future sales tax. Between 2023 and 2036, bond payments will conclude for many other projects our community has invested in over the past several years, freeing up borrowing capacity. However, as you can see on the left-hand side of the graph, you can see when those bonds mature. And we don't free up any borrowing capacity until 2023, which means a frugal and responsible approach to spending in the next 5 years will be very critical. The city still has plenty of borrowing capacity, as you'll see in the next slide, but excessive borrowing in the near term would impact some of our planned projects. Going back to my comment about a wide spectrum of opinions on our debt capacity, we are far from our legal debt limit of $668 million, as you can see on this slide. Now, clearly, the legal debt limit is not a debt load we aspire to, but we are capable of borrowing if and when community needs are identified and agreed to by the administration and by you all as counselors. Again, our debt is manageable and sustainable. It's a big number, but we're a big city, and we have big city needs. As an elected official, I pledge to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars, and I will hold true to that. And if I can go off script for 1 second, I normally talk about being Dutch, but we didn't work that into the script. But I will be good with our taxpayer dollars. My focus is to pay down the city's debt while spending conservatively on the necessities of our community that are necessary for growth and for renewal. So not only is Sioux Falls debt manageable, but we have demonstrated to our peer communities that we spend responsibly in this city. This is a chart that our city leaders, past and present, should be very proud of. In addition, our Moody bond rating is also a clear reflection of the fiscal responsibility that we have here in Sioux Falls. If and when the time comes to borrow, our interest rates will be low because the city has proven that it manages your money, taxpayer dollars, wisely. This chart is another one we should be very proud of as a city. So with that information as a backdrop, today I'm here to present the recommended Sioux Falls capital program for 2019 to 2023. For those of you unfamiliar with the city budgeting, we're talking about dollars that are required to spend on capital improvements and capital equipment, like some of the things you see on the slide in front of you. This proposal is our roadmap for the next 5 years of capital spending. Our plan balances the need to accommodate growth with the need to maintain and improve the city's current infrastructure. Also, only the first year of the proposal will be appropriated for the fiscal year 2019 budget. But many of these projects, as you'll see, they're multi-year endeavors. Counselors, in the budget book you receive at the end of the presentation, you'll find an explanation of sources and uses of funds as well as summaries. Members of the public and those watching at home, the budget book will also be available to you at siouxfalls.org/capital. So during the past 10 years, Sioux Falls has invested in some very essential projects for our city. Things like storm drainage, roads, fire stations, and some great quality of life facilities and projects like our Premier Center, Midco Aquatic Center, and some of the things you see on the slide in front of you. For the 2019 to 2023 capital program, we will focus on the foundational needs for growth and sustainability of Sioux Falls. And you'll hear me say that a lot. It's the title of the slide, the foundational needs for growth of our city. And so I'm proposing a $135 million budget in 2019 as a portion of a $748 million 5-year capital proposal. What you are presented with today includes a budget with various funding sources. The fees and loans are reserved for our utility projects, and the sales and use tax will be used for street, culture and rec, and public safety projects. With that in mind, here you will see how we will be allocating those funds. As you will see shortly, the large enterprise investment proposed is a vital investment in the water reclamation needs for our city. The next 5 years will require a large enterprise investment for water reclamation needs. Those are crucial for future residential and commercial growth, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. So here's a comparison of where the capital will be allocated. The enterprise funds are going toward a large water reclamation investment in utilities, as I just mentioned. Highways and streets will see an increase over last year, while culture and rec stays level and other program areas slightly decrease. Now, streets, water, and water reclamation are 3 of our top priorities for capital spending in Sioux Falls as the foundational needs for growth, as well as the quality of life we have all come to expect for the city. We will need to invest $74 million in water and $262 million for water reclamation. The time is now for us to invest in the expansion of our water reclamation treatment system. Our facility is currently operating at 82% capacity, and it's 10 years past its intended design life. We need to build for future capacity and commercial and residential growth in our city. A major takeaway I want the council and the citizens to leave here today with is economic development and population growth cannot happen in our city without this investment. It's that critical. So the cost is a heavy lift, but it is very necessary. Just like the Lewis and Clark water system investment had a large upfront cost for the city, this too is a long-term investment that will benefit our community far into the future. This future facility will increase the annual maximum of 21 million gallons per day to 30 million gallons per day. It also increases our peak max capacity by 60%. So for perspective, last week during the heavy rains, we nearly maxed out our peak capacity. With 4,000 to 5,000 new residents a year and new development, we can't ignore our capacity restraints, and I strongly encourage the council to support this investment. The estimated cost of this enterprise project is $262 million for the facility and collection system, which includes a pump station and some expanded retention infrastructure. The current facility was built in the 1980s and was funded 75% with federal funds. Unfortunately, that federal funding has dried up since that time. Now, keep in mind that this is an enterprise project, which means per ordinance it will be paid for with funds generated from sanitary sewer utility rates. With the lack of federal funds, the city will be borrowing from the state's revolving loan fund at a low interest rate. It's also important to note that Sioux Falls wastewater rates will remain affordable with this project. Future rate increases may be made to sustain the enterprise and remain competitive at the same time. So this is a large project with construction that would begin in 2019 and an estimated completion date of 2025. So this is a 6-year project. It's a big project for Sioux Falls. There are a few other routine enterprise investments in the budget book that you'll get at the end, but let's move on to the sales tax funded portion of the CIP. The budget presented today also shows an aggressive effort for our streets and roads. We have a plan to renew, reconstruct, and improve roadways over the next 5 years. In 2019, we're proposing $11.4 million for 35 city blocks of concrete joint repair and resealing, 40 blocks of neighborhood rehabilitation and reconstruction, 415 blocks of surface treatment projects, and 225 blocks of asphalt overlay. The proposed 5-year cost for this maintenance is $65 million. You know, one of the great moves the Public Works Department made in recent years was transitioning from visual surveying of streets to using a specialized vehicle to survey the surface and subsurface of the entirety of our city roads. Now, this methodology is how we can use technology to spend smarter and more wisely. And I hope to continue to bring technology and technology-driven solutions like this to the city for smarter spending. I'm excited to resurvey the city streets in 2019 and wrap up work next year that will address all of the streets that were previously rated as very poor in the 2015 survey. Accessibility in Sioux Falls is crucial to the quality of life for those with limited mobility. This plan has $4.4 million programmed over the next 5 years to continue upgrading curb ramps, improving sidewalk conditions, and advancing ADA compliance. There are a handful of arterial street improvements that have been identified in the past, and I'm excited to be moving these forward in 2019. I hope you'll find value in these projects as well. First is the improvements to 69th Street from West Medical Court to Louise Avenue. This corridor continues to see annual increases in traffic, which is expected to increase even more. With the new Avera campus, the Sioux Falls Lutheran Schools relocating there, the new city campus, we need to prepare for future growth in this area. We also look to improve the traffic flow on 41st Street. Improvements to the intersection of 41st and Western will improve commute times and capacity. And another project I'll highlight is 57th Street, from Highway 11 to 6 Mile Road, and investments we plan to make there. Although it's not part of the capital program, I want to touch on a project that I'm excited to see move forward. For years, commuters on the east side of Sioux Falls have wanted a railroad overpass at 26th Street in Southeastern. I'm not sure how the railroad does it, but they seem to be timed exactly to our evening rush hour traffic. This causes backups on the shoulder of northbound I-229 and 26th Street exit. Quite honestly, makes for a dangerous place. Through federal, state, and local partnerships, we are ready to get this done to improve traffic and improve safety. You've already seen the early stages of this with the relocation of Rotary Norland Park. The total cost of this project is $43 million, with a city portion of $28 million. Now, our portion is set to begin in 2019 with work on Southeastern Avenue between 18th and 26th Street. The estimated completion of the project is 2020. Here's a bird's eye view of the project. So the state DOT will be working on the majority of this project as the interstate and 26th Street interchange will be reconfigured for improved capacity and flow. A happy commuter is a happy citizen. I've found that early on. And this project is going to result in some pretty happy drivers when it's finished. However, this project is going to be impactful for thousands of folks who travel in this area, especially during peak times. Now, I would ask for the patience of our citizens as we move this project forward. It's a heavy lift for the city, but the finished effort is going to be absolutely incredible. Major street construction is also proposed for two major corridors in our city. Minnesota Avenue from Russell Street to 18th Street is one of the first impressions visitors of Sioux Falls get in our community. As many of you will agree, it needs some love. This reconstruction will improve the roadway as well as the sidewalks from Russell all the way to 18th. We'll also begin work on an aggressive project to reconstruct 41st Street between Shirley and Minnesota Avenue. So essentially from I-29 all the way to Minnesota on 41st Street. This project will tie into the state's reconfiguration of the Interstate 29 and 41st Street interchange, which will transform it into the state's first diverging diamond interchange. And if you want to get excited about that, talk to Mike Cooper and others about what a diverging diamond is. Over the next 5 years, this investment is estimated at $34 million. We also, to use a term I've learned from Mark Cotter along the way, we have some tired bridges in Sioux Falls. You have likely heard the discussion on the rehab plans for the 8th Street Bridge in particular. That work is budgeted to begin in 2019, followed by the 6th Street Bridge in 2022, both of which will be tremendous enhancements along our beautiful River Greenway. Estimated total cost for these two bridges is around $11.6 million. I'd like to take a moment to have you focus on the 8th Street Bridge rendering. So this bridge is a gem in downtown, and the rehab of the structure will further enhance the core of our city, both functionally and visually. It will also set the tone for what future lighting can look like in that area. We are also proposing River Greenway funding under quality of life expenses in conjunction with the 8th and 6th Street bridges. Future capital projects, future programs, will prioritize Big Sioux River bridges at both 49th Street and South Cliff Avenue. The proposed culture and recreation program of this capital budget includes $54 million in capital improvements and equipment. Today I'm going to focus primarily on the parks portion of that. $28.5 million is proposed for parks, including $5.4 million for a cyclical park replacement program. And I'll note the city has done a great job in past years investing in quality material for our parks that have longer life cycles than some of our past projects. We'll continue to invest in our great bike trail system. In fact, $2.9 million is slated for maintenance and replacement on the bike trails. This work will advance the plan to widen the trails where needed, improve some sight lines, and also improve the surfaces where needed. You'll also see a $1.4 million request for improvements to the Park Ops Center. The department is short on space for the equipment necessary to maintain our parks, and some of the equipment is currently being stored outside all year, which shortens the lifespan of those equipment investments that we've made as a city. Public safety spending has also fluctuated over time based on our fire equipment, police vehicle, and fire station needs. Over the next 5 years, there are 2 building projects that we feel we need to prioritize. First, the design and construction of Fire Station 12. With an estimated cost of $3.2 million, this station will be constructed in in 2020 and operational in early 2021. This will serve the southeast portion of our city, and you can see on the map there, that is at 41st and Faith Avenue, just east of Highway 11. Second is the Public Safety Training Center. You as counselors, I know have heard about this project several times already, and I know many of you have researched the need for this facility. Our police and fire teams need a modern training facility to meet the needs of an increasingly modern community. We have targeted 2019 for design and land acquisition for the training center. Our estimated range is $20 to $30 million for the entirety of the project, hoping to stay, obviously, on the lower end of that range. Council, this project will be an example of my intent to collaborate and reach out to the community when there is an opportunity to do so. We need community support and creative funding sources to ensure we can get this done properly and within our budget. We are already in discussion for creative ideas to help decrease the cost of the facility and maximize our investment. So before I conclude, I want to mention capital program process changes for future years. Going forward, I'd like to see us set these priorities in a more collaborative way, ensuring our community is even involved in what they'd like to see as CIP initiatives. We're also going to look for new approaches to collaboration with partnerships to maximize city dollars for community needs. We have a great community, a philanthropic community that wants to be a good partner with the city, and we have to continue to look at what those opportunities look like. Council, you also see my administration advocate for fewer studies, especially when they are unnecessary and redundant. We have incredible experts working for this city, and when a need is identified, I often see no point in paying a consultant thousands and thousands of dollars to confirm what many times we already know. So I'm confident we can invest wisely and use consultants when needed, but when not, let's use those consultant fees for other needs and reinvest them in our city. I'm also researching ways for us to use technology and smart city methodology to ensure our prioritization and our spending are embracing 21st century technological opportunities. Most importantly, our future investments, the one we're talking about today, will help our community thrive today and well into the future. So thank you for your time and your attention and your interest today. You know, our city is a growing community. We've been blessed with many, many opportunities. What excites me most about the capital program is it shows that Sioux Falls is a thriving community and we're moving in a positive direction. And I really believe that. With an eye to the future, we are focusing on the foundation for growth in Sioux Falls. This budget is a foundational platform for our future. The decisions we make for 2019 are decisions that will live on for many, many years to come. So I look forward to continuing the conversation with you as counselors with the city's staff team, with you and the public, and I look forward to moving the city of Sioux Falls forward. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, that includes our 4 o'clock informational meeting. We will have a joint city-county meeting starting at 5 p.m. And that is all. Thank you.